Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Daily Dizzle for Thursday, December 16th, 2010. We are now in the single digits to the countdown to Christmas. We have 9 days left. We've got a lot of news to get to, so we're going to jump right in. The big news is the worldwide box office numbers for the last week are coming in. And though the Chronicles of Narnia Voyage of the Dawn Treader might not have opened up as well as expected in America, it has made up for it with an overseas start. I believe in 2 weeks it has made over $100 million at least in there. We'll have the full breakdown of those numbers later on. We will also have the new DVD releases for this week. There were a bunch that came out this past Tuesday, and sometimes with a weird holiday season, you'll see a lot of random release dates. There are some movies actually coming out on Fridays, to try and space it out a little bit better for those who are out frequently spending their money. So we'll have the full coverage of what already came out in addition to what will be coming out tomorrow. We'll have a bunch of new movie news that we want to tell you about yesterday to get to, and we will also have some of the SAG award nominations. We'll have the breakdown for that in the acting categories. First, we've got some new release dates being set. First, The Beaver from Summit Entertainment, starring Mel Gibson as a man who talks to a hand puppet beaver. Everyone thinks he's crazy. It also stars Anton Yelchin from Charlie Bartlett, Star Trek, and the newest Terminator movie. Jodie Foster made it. It should actually be funny, depending on if audiences receive it well, with how controversial Mel Gibson's name seems to be nowadays. It has set a release date of March 23rd, 2011 right now for a limited release, and then 2 weeks later on April 8th they're going to expand it out depending on the size of that release will depend on how well it is received from there. Clash of the Titans 2 from Warner Brothers, which is rumored to be called Wrath of the Titans, has set a release date of March 30th, 2012. Some other random release dates being moved around as well, including the upcoming Gulliver's Travels. It was scheduled to come out a couple days before Christmas on the 22nd. Now it is scheduled for a Christmas Day release to space it out a little bit more from Yogi Bear, which will be out this week. So really giving that a week and a half almost to dominate in the family movie side of things before Gulliver's Travels will be out on Christmas Day. I do like Jack Black, though. The Jack Black mixed with Night at the Museum, almost fantasy concept, doesn't really strike me as anything too crazy appealing. Now to the newest DVD releases from this past week. The A-Team was one of the big ones that came out on the action side of things. Of course, it didn't do as well as expected at the box office. It came out the same weekend as The Karate Kid, which was the bigger story throughout the summer. For family movies, we've got Despicable Me that came out, made a huge amount of money at the box office with Steve Carell. It's got the Minions in it, which looks, those are very, very good for marketing. If they're ever going to do a sequel, they can sell a ton of those as toys and such. Nanny McPhee Returns, also a family movie that came out this week. Didn't really know Nanny McPhee needed a sequel in the long run, but they gave it one. So that's out there for the viewing pleasure of anyone who definitely thinks that is what they'd want to see. We've got The Other Guys with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, the action comedy that also came out this week. So there are some good choices that are already on the shelves. However, if none of those strike your fancy and you're going to be waiting and trying to save your dollar for the last minute deals, on Friday we've got The Town coming out. Just under 3 months after it came out in theaters. We also have Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole, or whatever, the Owl movie, the animated one from Warner Brothers. That also under 3 months, just came out at the end of September. So the weird thing about the holidays is sometimes you'll see a movie's legs at the theaters get cut off, whether they're just admitting that it's a movie that wasn't as successful as they expected, or one that has just already played its course, and they're acknowledging that. Those two being rushed out in under 3 months. There's also going to be, not by the holiday season, but in similar news of how fast they're rushing movies out, The Social Network, which is going to be a big Oscar contender this year, they're going to be having that out on DVD around the time that the nominations are announced for that at the beginning of January. So it'll be interesting to see if it does get nominated and if that's going to give it some record sales. Meanwhile, there's some other things that have come out on DVD this week as well. If you like TV, there is definitely a good one that came out, the final season of 24. If you didn't happen to catch that while it was on TV, now you can either go get the 8th season, or if you've been waiting for all of them to be out and available to get them, they actually have a complete series box set. So it was a pretty busy week for DVD releases. 4 new movies this past Tuesday, 2 more this Friday, and then you have even more coming out next week, and potentially releases for next Friday as well. So we'll have a full coverage of that as well. We'll try and keep up on that a little bit better, as long as next week isn't packed. Of course, next week will be the 3rd week of our Daily Dizzle. The starting rundown of it, pretty much, we will deem it a success so far, so you can expect to keep seeing us. We might take the last week of this year off just for how much time it is taking to turn these out, though in that time then we'll have plenty to report on when we come back. But in the meantime, we've still got a couple more days of this to go, another week and a half, so let's keep it going. Like we said, with Chronicles of Narnia 3, it did not perform as expected in its opening. Even with the big boost it should have gotten from 3D screens, it is lagging behind all the previous Chronicles of Narnia movies. It's actually performing closer to the Golden Compass, which did not have any staying power in the realm of fantasy family movies. That only ended up making $70 million. However, Chronicles of Narnia 3 right now, it's tracking closer to Eragon, which came out a couple years ago, which grossed less in the opening than the Golden Compass, but ended up grossing more in the long run. Though I expect Chronicles of Narnia to really lose its legs this weekend with the release of Yogi Bear and Tron Legacy from Disney as well. Since that got a PG, they're definitely going to be aiming to take away the same audience from Chronicles of Narnia 3. Meanwhile, though, around the world, it was number 1. It opened officially for this week with $65.8 million for a total of $79.8 million after its start last week. This all includes preview gross numbers, which sometimes go out ahead of time, and they don't like to count them until they can get the exact numbers on, though. Its biggest market was Russia, where it had a series best $10.9 million debut. So even though it seems like Chronicles of Narnia is fading in some places in the world, in some places it is achieving its biggest records yet. It earned $7.1 million in Mexico, $5.3 million in South Korea, which were also both highs for the franchise, but all 3 did include the preview grosses. However, in other significant territories, it didn't really fare as well as the previous ones. In France, it made $6.3 million, which was closer to the sequel's opening, but way off from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It was even worse in the UK, where its $3.9 million opening was less than half of Prince Caspian, which was in itself down from the first movie. It still has Germany and Italy to go, but at this point, it seems that it's going to be making its money back at the very least at the end of the day. So even if we don't see any more Chronicles of Narnia movies, it will still have a decent run at the end of the day, and hopefully they will find a way to continue it in direct-to-video movies or even just new books in general. Number 2 at the worldwide box office after dominating for a couple weeks, the last Harry Potter movie, Part 1, fell 44% to $30.9 million from 63 territories. Its grosses came out to be $4.9 million from France, 4.6 in Japan, 3.5 in Germany, and 3 million in UK as the big numbers reporting. That brings the foreign tally to 521.9 million. And the fact that it still debuts in South Korea and Hong Kong, where it could get massive numbers, means it will have no problem crossing $600 million overseas, becoming the 6th Harry Potter movie to do it. So even though it's lagging behind in America at this point, it seems to be doing all right around the world. America just seems to be in some kind of funk with their box office numbers. Number 3 on the worldwide list, we've got Tangled, which added another $21 million from 17 territories, which it's only in half the marketplace right now, and it's actually already doing epic numbers, so it should have a run that not only continues into the holiday season around the world, but well into the new year, so we'll be reporting on that for a while. It's brought its total to $76.5 million, including previews. It opened 6.7 million in Germany, which Disney said was the biggest animated opening of 2010 there. So as you can see, they're spinning it however they can as a success for themselves. It also held well in France, where it was only down 25% to $5.4 million, which was a very good hold for a family movie. Number 4 was another family movie, Megamind, which grossed $11.9 million in 32 territories. It debuted to $3.4 million in Australia. Unfortunately, that was down from Despicable Me's $4.5 million start. A lot of people are comparing that to Despicable Me, and there's similar plot lines. Megamind, of course, isn't doing as well because it came a little bit later in the year and is a little bit more difficult of a sell, but still not doing so bad for an animated movie. Through its 7 weekend, it has earned $67.6 million worldwide. And it aims for its highest tally yet next weekend because it still has at least 19 territories to open in, which include France, Italy, and Mexico, which seem to be some big ones. All in all, though, it has grossed over $200 million around the world, so it made back its budget. It should have no problem being deemed a success by all the time all the numbers are counted, especially after it's out on DVD. With number 5, the other debut this week in America that came out to weak numbers was The Tourist. Hopefully it is going to have a long run around the world. Right now, in its first weekend, it scored $7.4 million, only from a handful of territories. Had some decent debuts in South Korea with $3 million, and the UK with $2.1 million. So it's got a little bit ways of a go to make it back. It's a $100 million budget. Hopefully, by the time it's done in the US, it should be around there, though. So from there, as long as it performs around the world as they're expecting it to, it should make back its money. Meanwhile, the bottom 5 for the worldwide chart, number 6 was a local release from Japan, Space Battleship Yamato. Made $4.7 million to a total of $20.9 million. 7 was due date with $4.4 million for an $89.8 million total. It should almost gross around $200 million around the world in the next couple weeks. Number 8 was another random foreign release. Number 9 was Jackass 3D with $2.2 million. 10 was also $2.2 million, which went to Saw 3D. So even though some of those movies, you think that 3D doesn't have an appeal, it actually ends up benefiting for it in the long run around the world. Those have grossed $51.4 million for Jackass 3D, which is the biggest worldwide tally. I think if you combine the original two, they would not even be half of that or something along those lines. Saw 3D made $76.8 million, so it ended up being a little bit better than the last movie that came out, which saw the series drop to its epic lows. Now, in some latest movie news, Ving Rhames says that he might not be back in Mission Impossible 4. He's been in the first couple. Right now, if he does return, it will only be a cameo role. It's all about the money. Though there have been images released of Simon Pegg. Of course, everyone would know him as Shaun from Shaun of the Dead. There are photos of him shooting with Tom Cruise. Speaking of Simon Pegg, he's got a movie coming out where him and his buddy from Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, Nick Stahl, actually team back up. It is called Paul, where they run into an alien, and they're both science fiction fans, and they're trying to protect him. The alien is voiced by Seth Rogen. That is going to be a crazy one. The poster was just released, and I heard the trailer should be out in the next 24 hours or so. Wrath of the Titans, like we said, it's got a release date set. It is actually going to be filming early next year is the plan for it. We've got some other news that we wanted to run down, but we're not going to have time to. We're going to get to that tomorrow, including Twitter's most talked about movies for the year and a few other random movie news. But we're going to give a brief rundown of the Screen Actors Guild nominations. List of the 5 acting categories. The King's Speech and The Fighter came out on top of them with 4 nominations, while Black Swan and The Kids Are Alright fared good with 3. Admissions from this including The Town, Animal Kingdom, Blue Valentine, and Another Year, which a lot of movies people expected to do better. Outstanding performance by a cast and motion picture, we have Black Swan, The Fighter, The Kids Are Alright, The King's Speech, The Social Network. Pretty much all the big ones that people expected to get nominated ended up coming through. So in the awards race for the season right now, it is starting to heat up. The King's Speech, The Social Network, and The Fighter are now the big ones, with The Fighter moving up in position. That was more on the Black Swan levels, but obviously a little bit more of a notice coming out for it. Even the Black Swan switching its release date, moving up to this week to expand into theaters to try and capitalize on the fact that that will be out as well. So as you can tell, there's a lot going on. We'll have a lot more movie news tomorrow. We'll also have coverage of the Chargers and 49ers game for tonight. Both teams need the win to stay in contention for the end of the season. Thank you for joining the Daily Dizzle. Don't forget to check back tomorrow for the next edition. Type in Dizzlemits on YouTube and see what else we got to offer. Thank you for joining us as always. I am Tommy Dizzlemits. Peace out.